What would happen if Respawn Entertainment, the makers of Apex Legends, added a new legend which had the ability to grapple enemies towards them, slam into the ground while airborne, and bull rush enemies with an uppercut, launching them into the air much like Doomfist, whom, due to his ability-heavy kit, became the most hated character in Overwatch. This notion might sound completely crazy, but boy do I have a story for you. So let's go back 13 seasons to the middle of Season 3, when screenshots of concept art and legend abilities began to surface on the internet courtesy of data miners who were a thorn in the side of the Apex developers. For these data miners, Forge was just another new legend that they found in the game files used for driving engagement. Because you see, the battle between data miners and Respawn had been raging since the game's inception. New legends and features were always being leaked way before their official release. These leaks often give players a false perception of what the legends are supposed to be. For example, before Crypto was added in Season 3, he had leaks released of concept art showing him with a completely different hairstyle than the one we know of today. You could imagine the community's surprise to see Crypto without the dreads in the official release. Some people actually got angry, saying that the dreads were better and that Respawn just sucks at design. And people got really mad just because of a hairstyle. Imagine if the leaks go way beyond that. Like, let's say, legend abilities or the story, because when leaving this unchecked, they give players a false reality of the things that are to come. This can be a real issue for the developers, as they now have to find a way to please the community. On top of that, most game developers believe that data miners and leakers take away their rights to tell a character's story the way it's meant to be told. You can imagine how developers would feel when they see community members hyping up leaked abilities and models that simply aren't true. A little bit of a tangent there, but nonetheless, the leaks that were floating around were that of a new legend called Forge. And I'm sure the newer players are probably wondering, who is Forge? Well, let me tell you, Forge was a brawny humanoid character who received some cybernetic enhancements to his body, giving his already menacing figure an extra layer of threat. From the leaks found in the game files, Forge was supposed to be the most meta-breaking legend in Apex's history. The leaks revealed Forge's abilities to be the following. His tactical was called Pull Shot, which was a short-range grapple which pulled enemies into you, and it could even be used to launch yourself up into the air. While you were airborne, you could press crouch to slam into the ground below. His ultimate 1-2 punch allowed you to bull rush in a straight line. If you hit an enemy along the way, you could press again to do an uppercut, launching you into the air. He also had two passives way before that was a thing. One was On the Rope, which would enhance your melee to do more damage the lower your own health is, and dealing melee damage would give you a temporary overshield. And then he had Victory Rush, where killing a player with a melee attack restored your health and gave you a 30% speed boost for 10 seconds. Yeah, he had 6 abilities shown in the game files. Most people believe that Respawn would eventually decide on the final 3. These abilities in speculation sounded game-breaking and also kind of fun at the same time, but mostly game-breaking. And once people saw them, they became more and more attached to this supposed new legend. Once people saw them, they started becoming more attached to this new legend, Forge. While some ends of the community hated the idea of an ability-centric legend dominating the meta, myself included, the idea of adding a new legend with melee-reliant abilities seemed absolutely insane, and it sparked some mild controversy. Some players believed it would be unfair and creating balancing issues within the game. Like, imagine seeing a lifeline getting uppercut 80 meters into the air. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be kinda crazy. To truly understand the story of Forge, we need to talk a bit about his lore. James McCormick, also known as The Forge, standing at a towering 6 feet and 5.5 inches, weighing in at 269 pounds, The Forge was a force to be reckoned with. Before joining the Apex Games, The Forge was already a 5-time champion of the Hyper Fighting Federation, earning him the nickname of The Forge due to his unbreakable spirit and his ability to craft victories. But it's not just his impressive fighting skills that have made him so popular. The Forge is also known as a people's champ because of his charismatic and connecting personality. With his sponsorship by Hammond Robotics and his already widespread popularity, The Forge's entrance to the Apex Games was highly anticipated. Fans couldn't wait to see what he would bring to the table and how he would perform against the other legends. And we were starting to hear that the start of Season 4, called Assimilation, was set to have a dangerous cyborg on the loose who would crush everyone in his path. Everyone believed that Forge had been in development since the launch of Apex Legends in February 2019. the design for the legend was heavily inspired by Doomfist, the menacing brawler from Overwatch. It was expected that Forge had gone through the regular character creation process as with every other character in Apex Legends, with a team of writers, animators, and artists collaborating to give Forge that unique personality and style that would fit into the game, including his abilities, which everyone assumed would be ironed out before the final release with Season 4. They believed that the developers at Respawn needed to find that perfect balance between destruction and game balance to create the right gameplay kit. These leaks and speculations sort of increased the hype for Forge, but also put Respawn in a very tight spot, as they had to try to meet the expectation of the players in one way or the other. Most members of the Apex community took Forge and his story very seriously and truly believed that Forge was the next big thing. Respawn is known for its intricate marketing campaigns that often involve teasers and Easter eggs leading up to a new Legends release. For example, the Season 2 trailer showed Crypto hacking the Repulsor, but he didn't actually appear until Season 3. Similarly, the surveillance expert was seen hacking a computer in Kings Canyon in an in-game teaser before the legend was even released. However, Respawn took things to another level with Forge. In a bold move, the developers released teasers suggesting that the new legend would be this character named Forge, a brawler who was set to become the next champion in the Apex games. And on the 27th of January 2020, everything was made shockingly clear. Forge was set to have an interview discussing his introduction into the Apex games. The Apex Legends Twitter account name was changed temporarily to Outlands TV in preparation for this live interview that was about to be posted. The interview would feature an animated TV segment called Up Close and Personal with Lisa Stone, and this happened.
Having some technical difficulties. Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
In an absolutely shocking twist, Revenant silenced Forge's dreams of becoming an Apex legend. His motive was that Forge was the poster boy for Hammond Robotics, which took everything from him. This was one of the best paths to his revenge, and it made him one of the most popular legends at the time, even though his abilities weren't as powerful as earlier leaks showed them to be. And as the whole internet was in complete shock, it turns out that everything had been orchestrated by Respawn from the very start. Even the legend's abilities and concept art were intentionally put into the game files in order to mislead data miners and leakers, and everyone bought it. And this plot had even been strengthened even farther by an interview some days prior to the event, where Apex's lead writer explained Forge's lore within the game and even described him as confident yet humble. He said that Forge uses his size, strength, and heavy-duty shatter gauntlets to batter his opponents into submission. Everyone believed that Forge was the next legend, with the only thing being remotely suspicious was that the lead writer never actually mentioned anything about Forge's abilities. It was literally the more you look, the less you see. Respawn had succeeded in telling an absolutely enthralling story with Revenant. It was a step above anything they had ever done, and a huge middle finger to the data miners who usually take away the right of the developers to tell the story of the characters themselves. Respawn behaved in stark contrast to most other game development companies who would just send you a DMCA claim. They decided to have fun with it, kind of as to say, hey, we're still in charge here. It is also important to note that about 2 months prior to the now popular interview, the original data miners who found Forge in the files began to denounce him entirely. They claimed that an actual in-game model for Forge was never actually made, and it was just concept art and ability names in the files. But people didn't believe them. In fact, people didn't want to believe them, and the news didn't really get as far as the initial leak. Everyone was already subscribed to the idea of smashing a camping Watson with Forge's abilities. The seed had already been planted, and Respawn egged them on. The grand reveal was an absolute eye-opener for the entire community, who had been led on for months, believing that they would have Forge. While most people were shocked and fascinated at this masterclass in deception, some members of the community believed that this was the wrong move from Respawn, as they had fallen deeply in love with Forge. Most notably, the conspiracy theorists who believed that Forge would return back to life to get his revenge on Revenant. And everyone else just decided to make memes. This era kind of produced some of the best Apex memes we've seen in a while. In an interview a few days later, Apex's design director Jason McCord would go on to say that Forge is super dead, and that people shouldn't bother speculating his return. McCord mentioned that it wouldn't make sense for a character with melee abilities to be in Apex, which is a shooter game. In hindsight, it seemed obvious, but we were all blinded by the hype and we couldn't see the full picture. According to him, the misdirection and marketing campaign leading up to Revenant's release was a clever way to misdirect data miners who thought they had uncovered the next legend and spoil the surprise. He even referred to the situation as a fun way to keep them on their toes and ensure that the surprise was kept intact until the official release. Throughout the season, you could obtain the limited edition steel cut weapon charm by visiting the interview location at Sorting Factory and opening Forge's orange death box, all in honor of the favored son of the Outlands. And that is a story of how Respawn Entertainment pulled off one of the greatest marketing stunts in video game history. From the leaked abilities of Forge to the teasers and the interviews, the developers managed to keep the community engaged and curious about the game's next legend. The reveal of Revenant and his abilities was a complete shock to everyone, but it was a moment that will go down in gaming history. Who knows what other surprises Respawn still has in store for us in the future, but one thing's for sure, it certainly isn't Apex Mobile, and if you want to hear about how that died, check out the video on the screen. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.